Hello and welcome to the weekly roundup with Prop News Time. We are here with industry leaders to discuss the latest news and significant events that have been shaping the real estate world around us, both in India and globally. Joining us today is Mr. Balaji Rao. The first item that we would like to discuss is, of course, the recent terror attacks that happened and the geopolitical impact of the possibility of war breaking out and other uncertainties. How is that going to affect the real estate sector in the coming months? Is it going to affect the institutional investments? Are projects going to be delayed? Are builders going to have trouble? What is the impact going to be like?
See, what we find is whenever there is a geopolitical uncertainty or volatility, the first thing it affects is the general economy. People are scared. That means they start taking defensive positions. You won't invest. You'll try to save more. You'll try to keep more in cash or in gold. So the defensive positions come up. When that happens in the general economy, will it impact consumption of high value items? Yes, whether it's automobiles or jewelry or real estate, it'll impact it. Will it impact investment revenues? Yes, because I won't feel like investing because I'm in a fear mode. I'm in a flight mode. I'm in a fright mode. So I'm not in a fight mode. The fight is the political fight, the military fight. The fright becomes the economy. And the flight comes from the investment, it'll fly, all the money. So we have to look at it in a very nice way to see where is the fright, where is the flight, and where is the fight. The three different things. So if you ask me whether real estate will get impacted, definitely. Because everybody, why will you think of buying a house when the country is in a mourning state? Or we are thinking of retaliation, and rightly so maybe. So the question comes, does it impact any political uncertainty, any geopolitical volatility, impacts the world economy, impacts the country's economy, and then by logic, it will also impact the real estate sector.
The Noida International Airport is scheduled to open this month. Over the last 5 years, we have seen the land prices increasing fourfold in the region. The state government and development bodies have been on the forefront of promoting and driving development by the ways of schemes and incentives. The residential front, the UP government recently announced it would develop 5 new cities over 50,000 hectares, all near the airport. They have already conducted multiple plotted development auction schemes selling more than 34,000 plots in the last 6 months. Even within commercial and industrial, there's been activity with Bonnie Kapoor's Bayview projects, along with Bhutani Group developing a film city there, and the UP government having recently offered Foxconn 300 acres to set up a manufacturing plant. So, what do you think of this region evolving over in the next 5 years? Do you think UP will become the next big real estate investment hub in India?
A good question, but I believe UP will be one of the major attractions, but might not be the only one, or we can't say for sure whether it will be the leader, because most states are today focusing on infrastructure push. And especially when you create a greenfield airport, it is going to act as a catalyst for other economic infrastructure to come up, whether it's a manufacturing unit or whether it's a film city, and naturally all the residential units will also come by. Definitely what Jewar Airport will always gain is its proximity to NCR. So when you are very close to a major metropolis, then naturally there is the so-called spillover effect, the shadow effect which will happen, which will help them in their growth plans. So compared to some other place which is far away from one of the major metropolitan cities, this one has an inherent advantage. But will it just run away with it? There is time for us to see, because in all states, if you see a Gujarat state or you see a Maharashtra or you see the southern states, they're all competing. They're all coming up with not just airports, with seaports, with riverways, with your expressways. You look at the Delhi Metro Industrial Corridor. You look at the Mumbai-Nagpur Expressway. They're all going to be game changers. They're all going to transform. And when they transform, the states will give subsidy, try to give incentives for factories to be set up, for film cities to be set up. So I think UP might be showing the way of an integrated development model, but you also will have it in other places. Like, for example, in Mumbai, we are already creating that Nayana area with the new airport, and there will be a third Mumbai also, which will come up. So just around Mumbai, you'll suddenly see there will be huge expansion. And again, it is very close to a major metropolitan. So there will be healthy competition between states, and that is a very positive sign for the country at large.
In the last few days, we've seen a recent spate of fires across the city, both in Mumbai and Delhi, where we are seeing residential buildings, commercial buildings, malls that have caught fire, mostly due to small things like fire extinguishers not working, combustible materials lying around, glass facades that have prevented people from realizing that there was an emergency. So, what do you think are some of the reasons for this kind of a thing happening in the city now, and what are the solutions that one can come up with?
It's a good question, and it's a very concerning issue facing all our buildings, because I think most of the cities, most of our projects sometimes take this aspect very lightly. Fire is not something to be taken lightly. Abroad, if you see in most developed countries, you have fire drills which are very arduously and in a disciplined way, done. Here we don't do it. There's no fire drill. There's no fire safety in most of the buildings. You get my point. Fortunately for us, some of the municipal corporations like Mumbai Municipal Corporation insist in new buildings having fire alarms or smoke alarms and sprinkler system, which to trigger off. But these are not there in the old buildings. They're not being able to enforce it. So in the old building, they still depend upon fire extinguishers or risers, which might not be working, as you rightly said. And even if some of them are working, most people won't know how to operate them. You understand? And this can only come about if you have a strong code that is enforced. And that enforcing comes when you have regular fire drills. You should have a fire drill every quarter in every building, residential or commercial, to say, if a fire breaks out, what is your exit path? How do you go through smoke? Do you use a staircase? Stop using the lift. Where are the refuge areas? Should you go up to the terrace or should you go down?
So is this mostly just a procedural thing, or do you think earlier there were fires, but they were never so frequent? So is it something new? Are we using new materials, bad electrical wiring? Is there something different that is happening that needs to be checked on as well?
No.
Or is it just that we don't have a fire safety concept in India?
I think it's a combination. Because think about it. One is our materials which we use might not be all very tested. Sometimes we get imported material from neighboring countries and we just use it because it's cheaper. That's one, could be. Two, our sort of a fire safety norms which we follow, sometimes we tend to flout them. We get the fire NOC and then those safety norms can be flouted very easily. Three, in the modern era, the load on these wires are much more. Like nowadays, you see air conditioners, central air conditioning, the load is very much higher. So if they are not of the requisite strength, you're tending to make them combustible. So it can catch fire. Four, as I said, we have complete disregard for protocol. Your staircases are jammed. Your stores are everywhere, so they can easily catch fire. People use basements, not just for storage or for parking, but also to run restaurants, to have retail outlets.
Correct.
So all these, when you flout it so widely, then it is necessary for the civic authorities to crack down on it and to give them enough teeth, that there are enough penalties that deters people from adopting this path of taking shortcuts. Otherwise, we are bound to see more fire. The first thing I would advise and I would suggest is, We need to have fire drills in every building every quarter so that people are aware whether something is missing, how to use a fire extinguisher, how to use a riser, where to go. Otherwise, it will be tragic because this is absolutely unfortunate and can be avoided.
The Enforcement Directorate recently conducted and coordinated raids across Goa, uncovering a massive land scam involving properties valued over 1,000 crores. The operation targeted multiple locations, including prime areas such as Anjana, Asagaon, and Arapura. These properties, originally owned by individuals and family estates, were unlawfully sold through fraudulent means such as forging of documents, tampering with revenue records, impersonation, etc. On account of the complex nature of land ownership in India, do you think it is advisable for people to still look at land as a major real estate purchase? And if so, should there be more due diligence, more legal checks that they do before investing in land, or how does one go about this?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because I don't think we should throw out the baby with the bathwater. Just because there have been fraudulent transactions, it doesn't mean land transactions shouldn't be taking place, both at a retail, institutional, and business level. The problem in India is our land records are not digitized. Our records are not straight, which we are trying to do. In some states, they have succeeded to a larger extent. In some states, we are still trailing. But once you have a digitization of land records, once you have some sort of a block ledger system where you can check who is the actual owner of that particular property, then there won't be any confusion. Okay? But today, I think the confusion is one, there is a lot of ambiguity when it comes to the ownership of land. That's one. Two, there's also a confusion about forging because the identity is being forged and some registrar is accepting it, which is wrong because it's not becoming public at that particular point of time. So all these sort of things can be overcome with the appropriate digitization measures. So I'm not saying you shouldn't buy land, but definitely you should be far more careful and do your due diligence because it is not there in place, these checks and balances. When these checks and balances come into place, which it is bound to come, because that is what our progress has done, then you can be more assured that you will not be cheated.
The International Monetary Fund recently revised India's FY26 GDP growth forecast down to 6.2% from 6.5% earlier, citing global trade tensions, slower global growth, and tighter financial conditions. Despite this cut, India remains one of the fastest growing major economies, driven by our consumption and infrastructure spending. So, what do you think this growth forecast means for the real estate sector? Will institutional investors, especially international institutional investors, get swayed by these predictions and forecasts?
Well, it does have an impact because, see, one, the growth forecast clearly indicates that the headwinds or tailwinds. So right now, the growth forecast, which is 6.5, if it has been cut down by a few basis points, then it clearly indicates that there are headwinds. And if there are headwinds in the economy, there will be headwinds in our sector also. So institutional investors do follow this as an indicator to see whether you're going to be impacted by what's happening around the world globally or you're not going to be impacted. Like every other major economy, whenever there's something which happens globally, we will also be impacted. It's highly unlikely we'll be isolated away from there. And if we are impacted, does it slow down our growth? We'll also slow down. Whether it will be 6.2 or 6.3 or 6 is a moot discussion. The question comes whether they are going to believe this is enough. I do believe they will think so. Because even a 5 to 6% growth in today's market is a very, very good sign, positive sign. That despite headwinds, despite volatility, despite uncertainty, we are still being able to grow, especially as a major economy. So that I think will be a good indicator. And I do believe that institutional investors will still keep coming into this country because of that. Because we will be the fastest growing major economy even in this year going forward. And that will augur well not only for the economy, but also for the real estate sector. I'm quite sure about that.
That's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please like, follow, and subscribe our channel as we cut through the jargon and bring you all the real estate news that truly matters. Thank you for tuning in.